Everyone good? Call this meeting to order, July 7th, 2026. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to recognize Representative Brady for being in attendance today. We do have a quorum present with all 5 commissioners in attendance. Commissioners, being that it's been 3 weeks since the last meeting, as always, we do the best we can with the agenda, but we do have some amendments. First is to add an update from our county fire warden and the discussion on a potential stage 1 fire restriction. We're going to place that under tab C as the first action item, so that'll follow immediately after commissioner comments. And then we also need to add personnel under the executive session list. If there are no questions to those additions, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Moved.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended by Commissioner Toman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. First up under tab A this morning, we've got a public hearing for the transfer of a liquor license from 374 Liquor LLC to Maverick Group LLC. And joining us this morning is Clerk Cindy Swinson. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. As Chairman West just announced, we do have a request for a liquor license transfer from the 374 Liquor LLC to Maverick Group LLC for the new Maverick that is on 8900 Highway 374 here in Green River. It has been publicly put in the newspaper for 2 consecutive weeks and been approved through the state of Wyoming liquor license.
Very good. Thanks, Clerk Swinson. Any questions or comments for staff on the transfer, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards.
Clerk Lane, in their application, it says that they intend to operate 24/7. Current Sweetwater County resolution limits operation from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. Will you communicate that to them that they are restricted from operating during those?
Yes, and at the bottom of the application, those hours are underneath it. I just didn't see a space where it said, because I believe that is the state law, correct? So that is on.
It is not state law. County commissions set those hours by resolution, and in Sweetwater County, they have to be closed from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Okay, yes, but that is on the application at the bottom. I did see that. And we do have a representative from Maverick here today if you have any questions.
I think it's covered then.
Additional questions, comments, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Slaughter.
in reviewing this, when we made or when we gave approval of the original liquor license in December of last year, the intent, I think, was somewhat different than what we're seeing with the intent that Maverick has got moving forward. In section 124601 of the Wyoming statute states that for a location transfer, a license may be transferred to or renewed on different premises on the same basis as the original application. I think that there's a little difference here. The hours of operation were different on the application that was approved in December. There are some other subtle differences. So I will look at this as a new application, and my decision will be based on the 5 conditions of Wyoming statute 12104 rather than on the inferential issue of the transfer.
Very good. Additional questions or comments? Sounds like the applicant is here. Any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, so what are we approving? What hours are we approving on that application? If we accept it as.
6 a.m. to 2 p.m. is what
It's on the application, yeah. It's just transfer from 374 to Maverick, who intends to run a retail liquor license January to December from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay.
Additional discussion? Not, we do need to open this up for a public hearing. At this time, if there's anyone online or in the audience who would like to speak to the transfer of the liquor license from 374 Liquor LLC to Maverick Group LLC, the floor is now open. Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
move
Richards,
to approve the transfer of liquor license from 374 Liquor LLC to Maverick Group LLC.
have a motion to approve the transfer by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Clerk Swenson.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's going to move us right along into the county resident comments and concerns portion of the agenda. At this time, if there's anyone online or in the audience who would like to address the governing body on any issues, we limit this to 3 minutes and the floor is open. Morning. Very good. Thank you, sir.
You have to excuse my voice. It's a little lump growing down there. Good morning, Chairman West and board members. Those of you who know me know how many rabbit holes I can go down, so I'm going to stick with a script here. It's based on the June 16th, 2026 meeting. And I apologize for not being here for that. And I only took the time last night to review the minutes from that meeting. So I apologize for that as well. But what caught my attention was some of the commissioners' report on kitchen table discussions. And to give you a little bit about my background on those kitchen table discussions, I started 8 years after the 1960 Multiple Use Sustained Yield Act, 4 years after the 1964 Wilderness Act. And there's a list on there of all the major things that's affected our side of the state on this side of the Louisiana Purchase. What I questioned was the kitchen table discussion. I ended my going to those meetings about around 2010. My last meetings were prior to the 2010 Colorado Roadless National meeting in Salt Lake City, where I had to report to various organizations. And also between 2002 and 2010, my last meetings through to Washington, D.C. On these kitchen table discussions was on the Brinegar Ferry U.S. Forest Service debacle that lasted those 8 years. So I'm wondering, based on the individuals that went to this kitchen table meeting, I was kind of curious as to what is the Northern Red Desert. My other questions would be specifically, who were the organizations met with specifically? And did the discussions involve any state indemnity lands, federally owned lands, or private lands outside the boundary lines of Sweetwater County, specifically that would extend into Fremont County and the northwest corner of Carbon County? And I'll just leave it at that. This questioning would be specific, and I hope I'm in my 3-minute time frame, would be specific to pipeline right-of-ways in those specific areas, if any of those discussions came up on the permitting. I have been waiting since February for public information out of district offices of BLM. I have not yet sent it up the ladder yet. But just the comments that came in on the kitchen table discussion, I'd like to know a little bit more information if possible. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Shipman. Appreciate you coming over and sharing your thoughts. I'm not sure exactly which kitchen table.
Mr.
in
Chairman,
regards to
I
your
can jump in. Off the top of my head, I can't tell Mr. Shipman everybody that was there. There were representatives from Friends of the Red Desert who hosted the discussion, Wyoming Outdoor Council, the Wind River Reservation, um, Little Mountain Coalition was there. Really, it wasn't an official discussion. We were invited up there to basically talk about Sweetwater County's position on the management of land. We 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 probably didn't agree with the folks that were in that room on a whole lot of management issues. But at least for me, I can't speak for the other people that went there. I feel that it's always my duty to go talk to anybody who wants to talk to me, whether I agree with them or not. But it was a pleasant conversation about our differences. Um, I spent a good portion of the meeting talking about how we, as commissioners, don't have the luxury of just focusing on conservation or preservation because we have entire county economy to consider, we have industry to consider, we have taxpayers to consider. And they seem to understand that position from us. Our discussions didn't go into private lands. They were more focused on the public lands available. No, we didn't get into pipeline right of ways, any of those discussions. None of them asked questions about those issues. So a lot of it was just them asking questions about how we felt. We talked about our many pages of comments on the Rock Springs BLM RMP and why we chose to make the comments we did and take the positions that we did. As you can imagine, from the environmental groups, they really want to preserve the ACECs that are in the current record of decision, and we talked about how we would like to see those really trimmed back and become way more reasonable, which is the discussions we've had with the BLM going forward, and hopefully as we move forward in the current amendment process, we'll see that. Maybe Commissioner Jones has a different perspective of that meeting, but that's kind of my memory of that meeting. But
Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I don't really have a different recollection, but I think one of the topics that was discussed, at least I did for quite a while, was really on how the motorized and non-motorized groups can and should be able to work together and get along. We're not going to agree on everything. I get that, and that's fine. Disagreement's healthy sometimes, so not opposed to that. But I gave several examples of what we've done here locally to, as a motorized community, to kind of extend the olive branch, if you will, to the non-motorized community and see if we can't work together on many things, including the RMP. The RMP was discussed, I wouldn't say in great depth, but it's a pretty hot topic still. So certainly was discussed, but just some ideas of ways of explaining to them why we felt the way we did in the RMP, what we were opposed to, the lack of studies that were done, the lack of documentation, the lack of information, the lack of everything that led us to the stance that we took as a county. And so it was just kind of a flowing conversation, went one direction and then another. And so there wasn't really an agenda or anything necessarily. In fact, when I was first approached, they said, we'd like you to come and just tell us what Commissioner Richards said, tell us your thoughts. Tell us what you think on the Red Desert and the, particularly the RMP, but recreation, access, the whole 9 yards.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify things, I'm interested in all of those things, but my main concern would have been with minerals management. That's my next step with the undersecretary.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Mr. Shipman. We appreciate it. And just as a side note on the RMP, because I know you followed along with that process, and certainly keep us in check, and we appreciate that. The last communication we had from the local BLM office was on the 29th of June, and they're continuing to work on that draft document, working with headquarters and what they refer to as the solicitors on coming up with a draft to roll back into another cooperator meeting. They intend to also have an ACEC evaluation report with that for a discussion on some of the changes that they've implemented before releasing it out to a public comment period, which they anticipate will happen this summer. So it's behind schedule from the last time we've heard, but sounds like it's still a work in progress. So thanks for coming over this morning. We appreciate that. Morning, Mr. Davis.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Dave Davis, Sweetwater County Assessor. I had sent you an email yesterday with an attachment that was basically this flyer. It was actually put together by the Albany County Assessor, and the purpose of the flyer is to notify people and let them be aware of the exemptions that are out there for property tax. We had a lot of phone calls this year from people who had missed the 25% exemption. When the legislature enacted that particular exemption in the first year, there was not enough time for the application process, so it was applied to every qualifying abstract code. So it was across the board. And just to give you an idea, that was 14,123 homeowners exemptions that were applied to those abstract codes. Again, there no application. Then the legislature tried to make it an owner occupied exemption. So there was an application process. Department of Revenue set up a portal. You had to apply through that portal in the window. If you missed the window, your application was denied. So with that, in 2026, we only had 9,199 exemptions applied. It was a substantial reduction. And it was a lot of the phone calls we got were from people who just were not aware. You know, we put it everywhere. I mean, I don't know where else we could have done it. I did it on Sweetwater Now. I did it in the Rocket. I mean, I did it all of the radio shows, everywhere that I could think of. We had this announcement out and people still missed it. So what we've decided to do is try the other version, which is pictures. So we'll see if this full page flyer in the tax bills will actually get people to apply for it and at least be aware that it's out there. So our vendor, Rhonda in the county treasurer's office has been working with them. They're not going to charge us any additional fee for the folding. They're not going to charge us an additional fee for the postage. They're going to basically eat it. They were actually kind of excited to do something other than tax bills and assessment notices. They thought this was going to be kind of fun. But the cost on this is about $1,300, $1,500, and I'm willing to pay for that out of my budget. I don't think Mark's going to have an issue with this. We've done those kind of flyers and worked together for the taxpayers before. But that's the reason we're doing this, is to try and let people know. There were counties that actually did have appeals on that 25% and the fact that they missed the deadline. Okay, we did not. We had a lot of angry phone calls, but we did not have any appeals. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Number one is it's not the phone calls we're trying to avoid. We can handle that, but we're trying to make sure people are aware. And this is the purpose of this flyer. So I just wanted to give you a little additional background. And then yesterday was supposed to be the district court hearing on the State Board of Equalization versus the governor's office. That hearing was vacated. So what that means is, in very, very simple terms, 2026 values are set. We don't need to be concerned about whether residential is going to be certified or not. We can apply a levy and we can go through our process as normal. There will be a fight later, but it's not going to affect the 2026 tax bills. So we are standard procedure from this point forward for the tax roll. So everything should be fine. And I'll stand for any questions.
Thanks, Dave. Interesting couple weeks or months in regard to that, and glad we're moving forward. So appreciate this. I think the notice makes good sense, and if you need extra money, Mark said he has some in his budget, so
Sweet.
we should be covered. Questions, comments, commissioners?
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Appreciate the update. Still under the public comment portion of the agenda. If there's anyone else who would like to address the governing body. Last call.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tolman.
I would just like to thank Mr. Shipman for coming over today. He's the only person I know who reads the Federal Register every day and is on top of anything that affects the federal lands or our county. And he was the one instrumental in educating and training the Conservation District to get involved in the cooperator process. So we would not have been in as strong a position as we were on the RMP if we hadn't had all of that. Thank you very much
Well
for
said.
your service.
Final call. We will close the county resident comments and concerns portion of the agenda, and that's going to move us right along into tab B, which is the consent agenda. This morning are 8 items, Commissioners. First being the approval of the June 16th, 2026 meeting minutes. Second is the approval of the county vouchers, the warrants, the expenditure approval listing, and the Commissioners' report. Third is the approval of bonds. Fourth, the approval of the abates and rebates. Fifth is the approval of hospital lab expenditures. Sixth is a request to restaff a vacant position in the county attorney's office. Seventh is a ratification of the DHS contracts with the sheriff's office. And 8 is a request to ratify the letter of support for Wyoming's I-80 Green River Tunnels Repair and Safety Enhancements INFRA grant application. This time, Commissioners, I would ask if there are any requests to remove any items off of the consent agenda for further discussion. I would ask that we remove the warrant from the expenditure approval listing for Vaughn's Plumbing and Heating, as well as the hospital lab expenditures. And with that, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. I believe we had a second
Second.
by Commissioner Slaughter, I think it was. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. I'd entertain a motion to approve the warrant to Vaughn's Plumbing and Heating.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I will abstain, given that's my place of employment. Would entertain a motion to approve the hospital lab expenditures as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I will also be abstaining as some of the payment for that work goes to a subcontractor for Vaughn's Plumbing, in which I'm employed. With that, that's going to move us right along into the commissioner comments. And Commissioner Jones, you're leading us off.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. On the 17th, I attended the Memorial Hospital Sweetwater County Quality Committee meeting. Some really good information came out of that meeting, but surgeries are increasing, in particular, the surgeries done with robots. Those things came into place 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but pretty substantial investment by the hospital to move forward with that technology, and it's paying off. And obviously, with the increase in surgeries, the citizens of Sweetwater County are reaping the benefits. Interestingly enough, they discussed the need for possibly more surgery rooms as people are coming from Steamboat, from Jackson, and even one from Texas to have surgery here. So reputation is spreading. So that's some great news. Also on the 17th, attended the Joint Powers Telecom Board meeting. Normal business was conducted there. Same on the 17th with the court security meeting. On the 24th, I sent responses to the Rocket regarding the 250th ride across the state and how it all came to be. Thank you, Ann, for reaching out. I appreciate it. Also on the 24th, I was on the air with Al Harris and Pete Leiby to again discuss the 250th ride. There's going to be a little bit of repetition here today. Then reviewed the Memorial Hospital Sweetwater County Finance and Audit Committee meeting. The hospital had another month with positive bottom line. So once again, the hard work over the past years are really paying off up there in many different directions. On the 27th and 28th, I went along with Pete Leiby so we could mark the trail from Uinta Sweetwater County line near Granger, almost to Wamsutter, in preparation for the 250th ride. On the 30th, made the trip to Cheyenne, dropped my truck off and trailer to join the ride. That's why I wasn't here with all of you to wrap up the budget. So I appreciate you guys doing that in my absence. On the 1st, the 250th ride officially kicked off with a 113-mile ride from Evanston to the Piedmont Domes, through Church Buttes, Granger, over White Mountain, and ending in Rock Springs, where we had a get-together that was put on by Commissioner Richards, Western Wyoming Beverage, Travel and Tourism, the college, and the events complex. Day one was a success with only a couple of flat tires and 1 or 2 blown belts for mishaps. So that was pretty good with 50 machines going over 100 miles, just some minor issues. Day two was the second day we traveled from Rock Springs to Superior, where Mayor Wolf and the town provided coffee and donuts for everybody. So appreciate them extending their warm welcome. Then we went north into the Red Desert, past the Red Lakes Wilderness Study Area down to Wamsutter for gas and some lunch. That was pretty much the halfway point that day. From there, we went down to 789, Highway 789, and then east to Saratoga. The trip was about 220 miles with a couple more flat tires and a couple more blown belts. But spirits were high. It seems like everyone had a great time, even with some heat, some dust, and a lot of miles. Unfortunately, my wife and I received a call from our vet saying our dog wasn't responding to medicine for liver failure, so we had to make the decision to come home the following day to be with her. But the rest of the group continued on, or most of the rest of the group. We picked up a few people along the way as well. But the next day, the ride went from Saratoga up over the mountains into Laramie, where Wyotech had a barbecue for the whole group. So appreciate Wyotech doing that. They also sent some of their students along as technical support and mechanical support. So appreciate that. And then the last day was on to Cheyenne for the 4th of July to the Capitol for fireworks and all of the 4th of July festivities. I didn't hear anything other than praise for the trip. In fact, people started about day two, started asking if it'll be an annual trip or if we'll plan other routes. The goal is to make this permanent route for all to use whenever they want. Of course, weather permitting, might be a little difficult in the winter. But to also make more routes with roads enrolled in our towns and counties in the future trail system. Have several people to thank, and I know I'll miss some, so I apologize to anybody who put effort in on this and isn't on this list. But first, my wife, Senator Stacey Jones, for coming up with this idea in a TRW legislative meeting for crossing the state for the celebration. Chris Floyd and Mark Tesoro of Wyoming Office Outdoor Recreation. Forrest Kaminga and Wyoming State Trails, they did a tremendous amount on mapping this out, staking the trail, and making sure that everybody made it from one side of the state to the other. Sandra Sanderson and YDOT, we could not have made this possible without the help of YDOT. Pete Leiby with Rocky Mountain Power Sports and Bobcat of Rock Springs. He was instrumental from the very beginning in mapping and volunteering and pretty much anything. A little bit of mechanicking, changing tires, changing belts, some of everything. Al Harris with TRN for daily coverage of the trip. The Sweetwater Events Complex, as I mentioned earlier. And I'd also like to thank Gary Elmore, who's allowed me the time to work on projects like this to better Sweetwater County. It took all of these people and many more across the state to pull this event off and make it go as smooth as possible and as much fun as it was. I think the enthusiasm for the 120 plus participants show this has the possibility to be something big for not only our county and communities, but also our state. It'll take some time for the trails and routes to grow into a tourism draw, but I feel really good about the direction we're going so far. I know there were quite a few skeptical people when I started talking about this trail system a couple of years ago and the possibilities of what it could bring, but I hope we're on to something and people are seeing it. So with that, I will end my comments.
Thanks, Commissioner. Questions or comments for Commissioner Jones's report? Or Commissioner Screech, I'm told.
What's that?
Commissioner Screech, I'm told recently by someone else. I told her I wouldn't bring it up, though. Congratulations on the success of the trip. Sounds like it was very well thought out and put together. Unfortunate that you had to cut it short, but job well done. Any other comments? If not, I am up next. I'll keep it brief. I had both of my monthly liaison duties for Young at Heart Senior Center as well as the events complex. Young at Heart is on their way with a new director and Michaela Wanacott, who's officially started in the middle of May, and are working through some policy and organizational structure there. Their biggest kind of agenda item on the forefront, if you will, is July 15th is WYO Gives Day, which are match funds for nonprofit organizations through different platforms and submission links. Locally here, we've got Williams, who has offered to do a match pledge of $2,000, Simplot for $1,000, and Y High Federal Credit Unit for $500. So look for those on nonprofit day of July 15th if you'd like to give back. The events complex was more or less business as usual there. They had Newmar on the grounds. And so after the meeting, Candy gave us a nice tour through some of those and showed us some of the different improvements taking place over there. The following morning, they were setting their silo, which obviously they got money from the semi-quincentennial grant to help establish with that project, and intend to have it ready to go about 90% ready anyway by fair, with some finishing touches thereafter. But nice little addition for the grounds there. And if you get the chance, get a hold of Candy and take a tour. They've done some pretty amazing things. I know I've spoke to them, and she's updated you on them and her different visits here. And um, it's got quite the curb appeal. It's pretty nice what they're able to do with their small but mighty staff and the different talents they have there. So congratulations to them. They're gearing up for fair, obviously. And we'll be here, obviously, today. She's here for the contract with Wyoming Horse Racing, and I believe has been in touch with you all in regards to where they're at with that. Outside of that has just been really all things budget. Happy to get that meeting put behind us, and came out a little bit better than we had anticipated, but some very difficult conversations and decisions were made throughout that process, and I appreciate everyone's teamwork and willingness to have those difficult conversations as we gear up for another fiscal year here at the county. And I look forward to visiting the cost of living towards the end of the year to try and give back to the employees as well. We did hear from Lena Rux, the acting district ranger for the Ashley National Forest Flaming Gorge District, last week in regards to water levels down at the gorge. And as of today, they will be closing the Anvil Draw boat launch due to low water levels, with the anticipation of the next being the Firehole boat launch. They do not know when that'll take effect, but obviously it is on their radar and brings concern given the different releases down at the dam. We spoke a little bit when Mr. Shipman was up in regards to the RMP and where we're at with that process, so I won't reiterate that, but we're anxiously awaiting the next cooperator meeting in that regard. And I believe other than that, it's pretty much been business as usual. So I'd stand for any questions. Commissioner Slaughter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the 17th, I attended the monthly museum board meeting. We were given updates by Director Dave Mead. One of the big things that took place last month for them was the history fair, which was a huge success as always. On the 18th, I attended the capital committee meeting where we finalized capital requests for the 2027 budget. On the 19th, I watched the hearing of the State Board of Equalization's ruling on certification of residential property tax values. The court found that the state had made its case against the State Board of Equalization and issued a restraining order compelling the board to exercise its authority. An additional hearing was set for yesterday, as Assessor Davis alluded to, but the board did agree last Thursday to honor the 4% cap in question, so the meeting yesterday was vacated. That afternoon, I formally turned in the Sublet Antelope Migration Corridor Local Working Group recommendations to Governor Gordon. It was a culmination of several months of work by the local working group. On the 26th, I attended Brenda Rail's retirement party. Brenda was an excellent employee for many years and helped me on many occasions. I consider Brenda a good friend, and she will be very much missed. Immediately following Brenda's party, I drove to Pinedale for the governor's announcement of his designation on the Sublet Antelope Migration Corridor. I had the privilege of speaking along with Governor Gordon, Game and Fish Director Angie Bruce, and Game and Fish Commissioner Ken Roberts to a few dozen people that attended the ceremony. My comments were centered around the great work effort put forth by the local working group members. It's our sincere hope that this designation will benefit not only the antelope, but future generations that have the ability to enjoy them. On the 27th, Mariella and I attended the Flaming Gorge Days activities, highlighted by the opportunity to dunk Commissioner Richards. Mariella had been teasing the commissioner all week about preparing her arm to dunk him. Unfortunately, she was not able to do so, but I backed her up and helped the commissioner warm up in the warm water. So it was a fun time. Thanks to Commissioner Richards for his willingness to participate and his thoughtful donation of an equal amount of money to the amount spent by those seeking to dunk him. He was very generous. On the 30th, we met to approve the final budget for fiscal year 27. It was nice to finish that process. The rest of the week, we entertained our youngest daughter and her family. We had a great time culminating with a barbecue and a huge water balloon fight on the 4th, with all participants regaled in red, white, and blue capes, glasses, scarves, and face paint to honor the nation's 250th birthday. It was a great celebration, and we capped the night off by watching the City of Green River's fireworks display, and the grandkids thoroughly enjoyed it. Yesterday, I updated records with new interest deposits for the specific purpose tax entities and sent new requisitions and prepared for today's meeting. With that, Mr. Chairman, I will end my comments and would stand for any questions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Questions or comments for Commissioner Slaughter's report? I would just highlight your work on the migration corridor. I applaud you for a job well done. I think initially when that came about, we didn't realize it was going to be as time consuming as it was. And then obviously you took on the chair role, and I know that took a tremendous amount of time, especially with other activities you got going on. And so I really appreciate you stepping up and taking one for the team and for your leadership throughout that process. And hopefully it was a good learning experience, but I'm sure you're also happy to have that one as a closed chapter. So thanks very much for your work on that.
Very much so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was a great learning experience, and I think we accomplished something that will hopefully stand for generations and will mean something to the people of not only the state of Wyoming, but really globally. This is amazing what that migration corridor actually represents, and the fact that we're able to do that is, I think, a real plus. So thank you.
Yeah, job well done. Commissioner Tolman, the floor is yours.
Hope everyone had a great 4th of July celebration. On June 17th, I attended the UW Extension interviews for the 4-H educator. Chloe Willenberg has been hired and will begin July 30th. On the 22nd of June, I attended the Combined Communications Board meeting. They provide WyoLink updates. They're working on a Castle Rock agreement for IT services. Clark Allred was elected chairman to replace Sheriff Grossnickel. Jim Wamsley was elected vice chairman. They are not moving forward with the IT agreement with the City of Green River Police and the fire departments. They may consider it mid-year. 25th, they attended the Golden Hour Senior Center board meeting. Thanks to Jean and Andy from Public Works. They have been very helpful in removing a storage wall, and expanding a meeting room area. United Way has volunteered to paint the room and pay for the paint on July 9th. Bake sales will be conducted every Wednesday afternoon at the center instead of at the farmer's market. Their special memorial fund will be used to paint window and concrete barriers that were provided by Jean's crew in front of the Golden Hour. They have applied for the Wyoming class investment on March 15th. I don't know, they're working out whether they qualify or not, so I'm not sure. They haven't heard back lately. Congregate meals served in May were 1,121 compared to 981 a year ago. The board and director are working on ways to increase the center's visibility within the community and to produce a quarterly flyer and volunteer coordinator. And we should be having lunch there again soon. And it's not after you give them a budget cut this time, so maybe it'll be okay for you.
That's we, not you. We. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. On June 30th, we had our county budget hearing and approval. On July 4th, I rode on the fancy red pickup from Whistler Chevrolet representing the commissioners. Thanks to the Rock Springs Chamber of Commerce for having over 80 entries in the parade, and Deanna Hunter for driving the Whistler vehicle. Special condolences to family and friends of Robert Gordon. He served the county and initiated many of the county processes that make us successful today. So I just want to extend those thanks to condolences to his family and friends. And Mr. Chairman, your favorite fan, Taylor, I took her on a discovery ride at the airport. Her mother and I rode in the back seat, and now she's totally hooked and wants to be a pilot for sure. So her mother is really excited now that she has a new, very expensive hobby. So we'll see where that goes. On 13th, she heads to Lincoln, Nebraska to compete for the National High School Rodeo Queen again. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Commissioner. Questions or comments for Commissioner Tolman's report? Not, Commissioner Richards, your bat and cleanup.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Day after our last regular meeting on the 17th, I attended the airport board meeting where they conducted regular business and approved their budget. Later that morning, I attended the weekly Power Coalition call, which I attended again on the 24th. I was unable to attend last month's Southwest Counseling Board meeting, but I do want to share some news from Director Grossnickel, and that is that they've hired a new clinical director for the organization. Elisa Robbins was promoted from within the agency and will provide leadership for their clinical programs, oversee the delivery of quality patient care, support the development of their clinical teams, and help advance the organization's mission and goals. So congratulations, Elisa. On the 25th, I attended the Sweetwater County Economic Development Coalition Board meeting. Very productive meeting, and the SEDC is busy charting its way into the future. SEDC was funded by all three partners this year, with the funding requests being half of what was presented historically under the old MOU, in addition to the appropriation of the funds this year for the money that the county's been holding on their behalf. They continue to work on converting to a membership-based funding model and want to develop a new MOU with the county to make sure they're spending their appropriation, well, I guess appropriately. Sweetwater County's portion of their funding continues to go through the Land Use Department, and with Land Use Director Bingham still tasked with providing services and being Sweetwater County's point person for economic development. I couldn't attend Brenda Rail's retirement party on the 26th, but I want to tell Brenda congratulations on her well-earned retirement. I'm genuinely sorry to see you go, but happy for you nonetheless. Over that weekend, I attended Flaming Gorge Days. Friday was pretty quiet other than the wind that kept blowing people's canopies away. But Saturday was packed full of people, especially during the parade. It's always a great event. Also on Saturday, I volunteered, as Commissioner Slaughter said, for a turn in the dunk tank to help raise money for the SWAT Swim Club. Glad to say we raised almost $200 for youth swimming during my half hour in the cold seat, and I'm pretty sure I was hypothermic by the time I was done. I think it was dunked and hit the water almost 20 times in that half hour, including by Mariella, who cheated. I guess my heckling got to her, so she ran up and hit the target. I heckled Commissioner Slaughter too, but he had a hard time hitting the net, let alone the target. It was still a fun time. And man, there's a lot of kids in Sweetwater County that have amazing throwing arms. Of course, on the 30th, I saw all of you back here to adopt our fiscal year 2027 budget. I'm proud of the work we did on behalf of Sweetwater County and extremely proud of the fiscally responsible budget we adopted. After that meeting, I headed to Evanston, where Teresa, Mechanic High, and my Jeep joined about 150 people and 50 machines on a 500-plus mile trek across Wyoming on unpaved roads. Commissioner Jones covered the trip in his comments, so I won't belabor the point, but I did want to say that the county roads we traveled on through Sweetwater County were by far the best maintained roads along the way. And our stop at the Spicer Pavilion on the first night of travel was by far the best venue for any of the events we experienced. Huge thank you to Wyoming Outdoor Recreation, Wyoming State Trails, the Wyoming Department of Transportation, the Sweetwater Snowpokes, Pete with Rocky Mountain Power Sports, and especially Commissioner and Senator Jones for all the work they did putting the event together. Thank you, WyoTech, for their support along the way, and the Sweetwater Events Complex, Western Wyoming Beverages, Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism, and everyone who helped with the event here in Rock Springs on the 1st. It was the trip of a lifetime, and I'm always going to cherish the moments of it, especially the views of Wyoming from so many different perspectives. On the 4th, we celebrated the 250th anniversary of America's independence at Wyoming's capital in Cheyenne, where we took my grandson on a historical tour of all three of Wyoming's branches of government. And we heard from Majority Floor Leader Nethercott, Chief Justice Boomgarden, as well as Governor Gordon. And we experienced the flyover of the two C-130s from Wyoming's Air National Guard. Then we ended the day with fireworks over the Capitol. Overall, it was a fantastic way to cap off a journey across the greatest state in the nation to celebrate the 250th birthday of the greatest nation on earth. Looking forward, tonight I'll attend the Sweetwater GOP's primary debates. Tomorrow I have a Power Coalition call and a WCCA monthly conference call. Then I'll attend the debates again, this time as a participant. This weekend I'll be at International Days at Bunning Park in Rock Springs. I hope to see everyone there. And then this next weekend, I have an airport board. Next week, I have an airport board meeting and another Power Coalition call, bringing me back here to see all of you again on the 21st. think that's all I have for you today, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Questions or comments for Commissioner Richards' report?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to dispute the fact that if Commissioner Richards was actually dunked 20 times, my golden right arm was responsible for 10% of that. So I may not have been able to hit the net, but I did hit the thing and I didn't have to cheat.
Commissioner Jones?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if being dunked 20 times is good because people are having fun or bad because so many people wanted to dunk you. I haven't really decided.
I think it was good, Mr. Chairman, because every one of them paid for the privilege of dunking me, and that all went to our community's kids.
Very good. Busy times. That's going to move us right along into tab C, the action and presentation items. First item up is what we amended at the beginning of the agenda, which is the update from our county fire warden, Alan Adams. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. First off, I apologize for causing the amendment, but I appreciate you allowing this presentation to be heard. I want to say I don't take it lightly having to restrict the yellow flower beloved by so many, but I have to take into consideration the county as a whole. It's my job. So therefore, I am requesting that the county go into stage 1 fire restrictions due to the heat levels, the temperature we had yesterday and the coming temperatures this weekend approaching 100 degrees. The fuel loads, the moisture is going to be believed to be in critical level by this weekend. Therefore, it's my recommendation to go into stage 1 fire restrictions beginning this Friday, July 10th, running until Friday, August 7th. And obviously, in the meantime, I will be monitoring the levels and the weather activity, and then coming before you again, the first meeting in August to have further discussing on the fire restrictions.
Thanks, Alan. So just to recap, because there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of concern leading up to obviously a dry summer and anticipated, drought. We had some conversations in the weeks prior leading up to the 4th, obviously with concern in regards to fireworks. You're having, as I understand, weekly meetings with different agencies, whether that's here locally or BLM or, Ashley National. As of last week, leading up to the 4th, the conditions weren't such that it was felt that it was necessary. But given that the temperatures are on the rise and anticipated in the late, 90s this weekend, along with some wind, I believe that's what's kind of kicked this off. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
And so, in having a conversation with Alan this morning, just so the body's aware, I had asked that he kind of keep us in the loop as we move forward. Obviously, the recommendation is to implement this for a month period, but as they're having these weekly meetings, just to kind of let us know if any conditions are changing, and he'll probably come back on our next July meeting and give us an update. And then obviously, as he stated, revisit this on August 4th to determine if we need to continue it or pull it at that time. But if there's any other questions or comments, I
Mr.
would
Chairman?
welcome them. Commissioner Tillman.
Well, I've been hearing constituent pleas since March, so I think it's timely that you implement this. Would they have a big fire at Telephone Island on the refuge, so at Big Island?
They did approximately 3 weeks ago. So, I mean, as we all know, the lack of winter we had this year. And so late winter, early spring, there were several fires throughout the state or in this area. Telephone probably being the biggest one, I would say. Then late spring, early summer, if you will, we got some nice moisture. So therefore our fuel, the moisture in the fuel load was above 100. So the way the chart reads is when they take a reading, anything below 100 is considered critical, and above that is non-critical. And as of last month, the levels overall were throughout the entire county, if I believe it remember, it's 134. So it wasn't critical. But with this past week, and more so going into next week, that's why, looking ahead, we're, seeing that it's going to go into the critical stage. And that's why we want to get a jump on it beforehand. Speaking in our weekly meetings that we had last Thursday. Lincoln County and Sublette County are on course to either go into also restrictions either this week or the beginning of next week. So everyone is starting to come together and realize the severity of the moisture in the fuel loads.
Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you said if the county is above or below 100, so where do you sample or how do you decide? Because I mean, we all know the storms that come through here will dump in Green River and Rock Springs won't see a drop or vice versa. So how do you make that decision then?
So the BLM is the one that monitors that. The fuel loads manager goes out at the beginning of each month. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you the exact spots. Like she goes to Fire Hole, she goes to Little Mountain. So they go to different areas and measure the moisture in the plants itself. And then they send the report out, which I get a copy of. So I won't have the next updated levels until the beginning of next month. But like I said, just due to the fact that, you know, with the heat we're coming and the wind, it's believed that it's going to be in critical by this weekend.
Additional comments, questions? And so just to be clear here, Alan, so the terms of this, and I don't know if it's a little bit last minute, but it's last minute in the fact that the agenda was already set, which is why we had to amend it today. And so part of the discussion that has taken place between Alan and myself this morning is this will allow, if it is approved this morning, a time for us to get it in the newspaper of record, which is the Green River Star for the county. So that'll be in this week's Thursday edition, given some notice in that regard, obviously to take effect Friday. We will also utilize any other media outlets and county websites, and I'm sure we can get with Mr. Maurer and the sheriff's office to help push it out. But the restrictions that come about and the prohibitions and the allowable activities, as stated in the resolution, has been prepared, which we are happy to share with any of those outside media sources, are that campfires are permitted with an approved fire ring or pit with a screen that blocks sparks of a 1/4-inch mesh and are located within a cleared area of 15 feet in radius. Charcoal fires are permitted within fully closed grills. Use of acetylene cutting torches or electric arc welders are permitted in cleared areas 15 feet in radius, subject to a pressurized chemical fire extinguisher being immediately available. Propane or open flame branding activities are permitted in cleared areas 15 feet in radius if accompanied with a pressurized chemical fire extinguisher that is immediately available. Discharge of fireworks are prohibited except as authorized by written approval by the BOCC, the Board of County Commissioners, or the county fire warden. And all other planned burning, open burning, or outdoor fires, including those identified above, are prohibited except as authorized through an approved permit by the county fire warden. So again, we're happy to make this available, and we will also reach out to necessary Green River Star and others to promote that. But with that, are there any other questions on stage 1 restriction, the timeline, or otherwise? Do you have a copy of the resolution number?
I have it.
2026-07-CC-03.
Very good. No other discussion. I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution 2026-07-CC-03, a resolution ordering and establishing a stage 1 fire restriction to be effective beginning on Friday, July 10th, 2026, and ending on August 7th, 2026, unless temporarily lifted or reimposed by the BOCC as proposed.
Mr. Chairman, I would make that motion.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it. Bring us to the next item, which on the agenda was item number 1, the annual compensation agreement between the University of Wyoming and the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners. I don't believe we have any representation here for that. So I'd ask for any questions, but I'm not sure that's going to do any good. My understanding is, obviously this is for the part-time horticulture position. and that position had been hired previously, but we did not have an updated compensation agreement. And so as such, we have been holding payment on that pending this approval. Any other questions or comments? Not, we can either approve it now or postpone it, whatever your pleasure is, but I would ask for either.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the annual compensation agreement between the University of Wyoming and the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners for the horticulture position by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next is item number 2, the award of the fiscal year 2026 Sweetwater County Library Parking Lot Project. And joining us this morning is Assistant Public Works Director Andy Hooten. Morning, Andy.
Morning, Chairman West, Commissioners. Before we dive into mine, I would like to commend Brenda. I was in here the eve of her last day. I was in here about 6, coming through, dropping some stuff off, and she was still in there working at 6 p.m. on the eve of her last day. So just a commendment and a good thing for all of us to strive towards. So just commend her for that. But anyways, what you have before you here is the award of the fiscal year 26 Sweetwater County Library Parking Lot Project. So this was a capital project that was set aside, and we bid this back in June due to how June went and having 5 weeks. Of course, we're here this month to go ahead and get that awarded. So this is the parking lot in Green River. If you guys have any questions, I'll address those directly or go ahead and make a motion.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. Looks like we had 2 bidders on the project, and one of them was non-conforming, but also wasn't the low bid. So the recommendation is to go with the conforming low bid.
Right. So small things happen in those bids, right? Sometimes it's a little bit of a deal when they are low bid and they're non-conforming. So as in the bid documents, we have the right to, the county has the right to waive any informalities. And so we weighed that. This one is a moot point as they're non-low bidder, but it was important to note that they were non-conforming.
Very good. Additional questions on the library parking lot project, Commissioners?
Library will be very happy.
I believe so.
So it looks like there was the base bid as well as an alternative for some additional paving on site. Those combined are underneath the engineer's estimate, which is always welcome. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to award the fiscal year 2026 Sweetwater County Library Project Parking Lot Project to R&D Sweeping and Asphalt Maintenance LC in the sum of $102,062.01, which is always unique, and authorize the chairman to sign all necessary project documents.
Mr. Chairman, I would make that motion.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Additional discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Chairman.
Appreciate it. It's going to bring us to item number 3, which is Resolution 2026-07-CC-02. Resolution authorizing the appointment of a special prosecutor. And as with previous practice, I think it's pretty straightforward. If there are any questions, Chief Deputy County Attorney DeLeon is here. And I would open it up for any discussion. If not, entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Item number 4 is Amendment 4 to the fiscal year 20 Wyoming Commercial Air Service Improvement Plan Cooperative Agreement. And I believe I saw him walk in as Airport Director Devin Brubaker, who is also, well, Mr. DeLeon has also helped with this process as well. And I believe you've had some emails in regards to the amendments, but good morning, Devin. Appreciate you coming over.
Good morning, good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to speak before you on this. So come before you every year, it seems like anymore. Used to be when we signed a air service agreement, we could get by with a couple years without any changes. Unfortunately, if any of you watch the 24-hour never-ending news cycle, you'll know that the economics of air service continuously are impacted by macro and microeconomic issues across the world. Currently, that big impact is fuel pricing. If you guys haven't noticed, when you fill up your own vehicles, it's a little bit more expensive these days. I'll tell you, it's even more expensive to fill up an aircraft. So jet fuel costs have skyrocketed, and unfortunately, those costs are going to continue to be high for an extended period, even as we may see reductions at our local pumps. And that has to do with how the jet fuel is refined and the type of oil that's used to refine jet fuel. As a reminder, this is a long-term agreement. This is a 10-year contract, but it does allow a reopener each year by either party, the state of Wyoming or the airline. And what's happened is the airline has exercised that right to reopen the agreement each year. And how the math is calculated here, just the Cliff Notes version is you basically take the number of flights for the entire year, you multiply that by the total number of block hours, and the block hours from the time a break is released before departure to when the break is set upon arrival at its destination. Then you multiply that by the block hour rate, which I will point out is going to be lower in fiscal year 27 than what was originally in the agreement. So the block hour rate is actually going down while the other cost is going up. Then you add the fuel. The fuel cost is a straight pass-through. That's your expense side of the equation. And then you have your passengers times the average fare equals your revenue side of the equation, and the delta is your minimum revenue guarantee. And so as you see in the documents, that's a total of 4.979 million, if I remember off the top of my head correctly. And the state covers 60% of that as part of the capacity purchase agreement program. Local communities cover 40% of that, and then that is split up 45% by the county, 33% by the city of Rock Springs, and 22% by the city of Green River. So the county has the MOU with YDOT, and then there's a separate cooperative agreement that is had between the two cities and the county to cover that local portion. So, and I would like to thank Mr. De Leon for his continuous support on this agreement. Every year, he is on top of it and tackling it and helping us get all of the legal side of things correct on it. So very much appreciate his support. Happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Thanks, Devin. Appreciate the background on that. Questions on the amendment, commissioners? Quick clarification. So we have Amendment 4, which is for the three entities, but then Attachment A, or excuse me, Attachment 1, which is just between the county and YDOT. That's Amendment 5, but that's separate from what we're talking about here, right? It's just in reference.
Yeah,
So I see Amendment 4 and Amendment 5, and I'm just
Yeah.
making sure I understand.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just like Mr. Brubaker said, there's three agreements that go along with this. There's the agreement between the state and SkyWest, so YDOT and SkyWest, that's the overarching agreement. And then after the state makes that agreement with SkyWest, YDOT makes an agreement with the county. And then that trickles down one step, that's that 60/40. And then that goes one step further down, and that's between the county and the two cities. And so the agreement between the state and the county is on Amendment 5. And the agreement with the counties is on Amendment 4. That's why you've got just those two agreements there.
Yeah, and
Very
Mr.
good.
Chairman, just clarify, there's two separate agreements you would be approving today. The MOU with YDOT, which is amendment number 5, and the county cooperative agreement with the two cities is amendment number 4. So, and also further clarification, the dollar amounts are what was included in your budget for fiscal year 27. This is not anything new. This is what was previously shared with you and your staff, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
And we did clarify that. That is exactly what Mr. Brubaker said, matched what you already approved.
We got that one right at least. That's good. Additional comments or questions? Not an entertain a motion to approve Amendment 4 to the fiscal year 2020 Wyoming Commercial Air Service Improvement Plan Cooperative Agreement and authorize the chairman to sign, as well as Attachment 1, which is Amendment 5 to the Memorandum of Understanding between the Wyoming Department of Transportation and the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners, and authorize the chairman to sign.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toman. Additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Appreciate it. Next up is item number 5. We've got the Sweetwater County Events Complex and Wyoming Horse Racing Usage Agreement. And joining us this morning is Events Complex CEO Candy Pendleton. Good morning, Candy.
Good morning. Morning, Chairman and Commissioners. You have in front of you or in your packet an agreement. It's a lease agreement for the Sweetwater Events Complex grandstands and horse track facility with Wyoming Horse Racing. The board has been negotiating this agreement actually since November, and it continues our contract with them starting through 2031 to 2035. So you have that in your files. Just as a note, like I said, we've negotiated this for quite a long time. We believe this agreement is in the best interest of the county, certainly in the best interest of the events complex. It provides predictable annual revenue, significant dedicated funding for facility improvements, and long-term stability for both parties. So with us also, I believe, is Peter Lagoria from Wyoming Horse Racing, Eugene Joyce, and Sean Byrne. And obviously, it's pretty straightforward, but we'll stand for questions.
Thanks, Candy. Appreciate that. Questions on the usage agreement, commissioners? Some of these in the past weren't brought before the governing body, and so it was found that during these negotiations that a county fair board cannot independently enter to contracts that lease county-owned fair property. So that's why it's before you, but it's something that they have had a good working relationship with Wyoming Horse Racing and allowed them to make some very nice capital improvements to the grounds. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Slaughter.
Candy, obviously you have an agreement in place with Wyoming Horse Racing prior to this taking effect in 2031. What are the differences between the contract that is currently in place and what this will actually entail?
We actually negotiated a higher rental rate, and they're going to do a more significant amount of capital improvements. So pretty significant revenue improvements for us.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Yeah.
Additional comments or questions? I think it's a great relationship and appreciate what you guys do for the complex and the facility and working together. And I believe in the past, it's been, capital money that's been specific to the grounds, relative to the horse racing side of things. And even with us, that's kind of how, our own agreement with the events complex has been, but they've been able to kind of capitalize on that. And now it's to the point where they'd like to use some of those funds to improve, the entire complex that will help support some of the attractiveness and being able to host those events. So we appreciate your generosity and support with that and the ongoing relationship. So thanks for being here and in attendance, Pete, and for working together with the events complex team on it.
I have a question.
Mr. Tillman.
So it doesn't go into effect till 2031? So why so far ahead of time?
So we do have a current agreement in place that was signed actually by Larry Lloyd and the current owners of Wyoming Horse Racing. That's 2026 to 2030. They do their permitting far in advance, and the Wyoming Horse Racing team can speak to this further, but they do their permitting in advance. And then because they're making some significant improvements to the grounds, we wanted to lock in a longer term lease, right? They're looking at doing possibly $1 million worth of stall improvements. They wanted to make sure they had some long-term lease agreements in place in order to continue making those improvements. And I think that's fair. And it helps us, honestly, budgeting. As you know, we're working on indoor arena improvements, some big capital improvements on our end. It also helps us to figure out where we're going to be in the next couple of years and down the road. So I do think it's a win-win, Commissioner Tillman.
Thank you.
Additional comments? Anything from Wyoming Horse Racing? I know some of you traveled, so if there's anything you'd like to share, by all means. Don't feel like you have to, though.
I don't know if Pete wants to say anything. Eugene Joyce, Wyoming Horse Racing. I came before this august body back in 2011 to start horse racing, and what we've accomplished over the past 16 years, I hope is a point of pride for the community, because it's a point of pride for our organization, what we've done. The improvements that Candy has talked about has taken a facility that was first built in 1979 and raised the safety aspects up to national standards, and allows us to continue to grow and to bring a higher quality of horses and jockeys and competitors to our race meet. And so we're extremely proud of this public-private relationship that we've had for the past 16 years, and we're looking forward to extending it beyond. So thank you all for your support of our endeavors.
Probably hard to envision back in 2011 that you'd be having this conversation in 26 in regards to 2035.
Not in a million years. I mean, we were just trying to get to the next year back then. There wasn't a long line of people behind me that really wanted to get horse racing back going. So back then, but now with the advent of historical horse racing and the revenues we can provide to the community here, it's a win-win for everybody.
Very good. Thanks, Eugene. Any other comments?
I would encourage the public to go. I went for the first time a couple of years ago. It was amazing. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Pete.
Thank you, sir. I would just echo Eugene's comments in that, we value the relationship with the complex and also the county. And to address Commissioner Toman's question about why are we doing something when the current contract hasn't ended, I think the team has touched on some of that, but some of the investment decisions are going to be much larger than we've done in the past. And having the comfort that there's a 10-year window for us in total gives us a lot of makes it much easier to make those decisions as we think ahead. The other thing that's changing, which Eugene alluded to, is as our business has grown, obviously our activities around live racing has also grown. We've gone from 16 days to 18 days, but another element of this is our purses have grown. When we first joined the company back at the end of 2021, the purses were roughly 800,000. Our purses this year will be 3.4 million, and we're projecting those purses to be almost 4.5 million for next year. At those levels, this track is attracting national attention. And even Eugene and Sean have commented last year, we saw a big change of the profile of customers that came in. We're obviously always going to prefer and give preference to Wyoming trainers and horse owners, but the quality and the amount of out-of-state activity is increased substantially. So it's been a really interesting process as we've seen the business evolve, and our gives significant tourism exposure to the county and the state as well, with out-of-state visitors coming and spending effectively a month and a half in the region. So as Eugene said, we believe it's a win-win for everybody, and we're super excited about the future. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Additional comments? Now I'd entertain a motion to approve the Sweetwater Events Complex Usage Agreement Parimutuel Racing Facilities as presented and authorize the chairman to sign.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thank you all. Thanks,
Thank you.
Candy.
Thank you
Appreciate
for your
it.
continued support.
Thank you.
Somehow we are 2 minutes ahead of schedule. We are going to break and we will resume back here at 10:25. Call this meeting back to order. We've returned from break, and where we left off was item number 7, which is the information regarding election machines. And joining us this morning for a presentation is Laura McKee. Morning, Laura.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair and members of the Board of Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to respectfully address the board. The citizens of Sweetwater County deserve elections that are verifiably secure, fully compliant with the law, beyond reasonable doubt, fully certified. Today, the standard is not being met. Sweetwater County, like other Wyoming counties, deployed the ES&S election voting system version 6.0.6.0. This system is riddled with certification deficiencies that render it unlawful for use under the Wyoming statutes, and it's incompatible with the Wyoming Constitution's demand for purity of elections. Allow me to name some of the critical certifications and security failures. You've received attachment A, and that's what I'm going to refer to here. So the Dell Latitude 3500 laptops in use are not certified for operation with EVS 6.0.6.0. The Oki 712 ballot on demand printers are not certified for this system. The Systor USB duplicator and sanitizer devices are certified only for ClearVote components and have 0 certification for security or compatibility with the ES&S EVS 6.0.6.0. These systems run on Microsoft Windows 10, whose extended support ended in October of 2025. No further security patches or updates are available from Microsoft without a paid extended security update or an ESU subscription. And you can also refer to that on attachment B. The system was certified under the outdated voluntary voting system guidelines, VVSG 1.0. Wyoming has no approved pathway to VVSG 2.0. A recent executive order directs the Election Assistant Commission, or the EAC, to strengthen standards and explicitly directs the EAC to amend the VVSG 2.0 and issue guidance to strengthen election system standards. Yet we remain locked in old framework. Section 7.4.2 of the VVSG states unequivocally, voting systems shall deploy protection against the many forms of threats to which they may be exposed, such as file, macroviruses, worms, Trojan horses, and logic bombs. Vendors shall develop and document the procedures to be followed to ensure that such protection is maintained in a current status. Wyoming's ES&S systems have had no antivirus updates since Engineering Change Order 1141 on June 8th, 2022, and you can also verify that on attachment C. This is not a minor compliance issue. It is a catastrophic security failure and a direct violation of Wyoming law, Wyoming Statute 22-11-103, which mandates that every electronic voting system adopted for use in Wyoming must provide number D, Romanet I, proof of certification by the U.S. Election Assistant Commission, and item D, Romanet II, or double I, sorry, proof that meets the voluntary voting system guidelines adopted by the EAC. These systems do not meet these requirements. They are not fully certified nor updatable. They are uncertified, uncertifiable, and inherently untrustworthy. We are voting on privately owned proprietary electronic voting machines with secret hardware, secret software, secret source code that is kept overseas, secret updates and contracts that have been redacted throughout. Not one county has proven that the election voting system counts the votes according to what is being cast exactly by the voters. They have no true audits. No one can read barcode. The Wyoming Constitution, Article 6, Section 13, requires the legislature to secure the purity of elections and guard against abuses. Equipment plagued by uncertified components, an unsupported operating system, and years without malware protection cannot possibly satisfy this constitutional command. Even in ES&S disclaimer in their election machine guidelines states, in accordance with the United States Election Assistant Commission, or the EAC, Testing and Certification Program Manual, version 2.0, ES&S hereby certify the purchasers, notifies the purchaser that any changes or modifications to an EAC approved voting system which have not been tested and certified by the EAC will void the EAC certification for such EAC approved voting systems. You can refer to attachment D. None of these have been certified. Wyoming statute gives this board clear power and authority. Wyoming statute 2210-102, the Board of County Commissioners may adopt for use in any precinct a type of voting machine meeting the standards specified. Wyoming statute 2211-102, the Board of County Commissioners of each county may adopt any electronic voting system authorized by law. You have the authority and the duty to act. If the intent by legislature was to put a type of voting machine or tabulator to be used, they would have put shall instead of may. The word may is used, allowing the decision to lay with the county commissioners. The people expect you to exercise your authority now to protect their most fundamental constitutional right. This recommendation is urgent given the documented certification violations, complete lack of security updates, outdated federal standards, and direct conflict with the Wyoming Constitution. We respectfully recommend under our authority, hang on just a second, somehow they got, got my pages mixed up here. Well, sorry about that. But what we're asking for, I cannot find my other page for some reason. But what we're asking for is for the county commissioners to act and for us to be able to, okay, sorry, I guess I just went past it. So the Wyoming Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, Declaration of Rights, power inherent in the people. All power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on the authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness. For the advancement of these ends, they have at all times an inalienable and indefensible right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such manner as they may think proper. That the Sweetwater County Board of Commissioners immediately initiate the removal of all ES&S, EBS 6.0, 6.0 systems associated with uncertified components from every polling station in Sweetwater County. During the permanent adoption of hand count paper ballots for all future elections conducted in public view with bipartisan observers, strict chain of custody protocols, and rigorous audits. Hand counted paper ballots are the gold standard, transparent, auditable, independent of proprietary software and unsupported operating systems and uncertified hardware. They have worked reliably for generations in America and continue to do so in many jurisdictions that prioritize verifiable integrity over convenience. They restore public trust because every citizen can see and understand the process. We're prepared to provide documentation, expert witnesses, sample procedures from successful hand count jurisdictions and full assistance with a smooth transition. The people of Sweetwater County and the Wyoming Constitution requires elections of unquestionable purity. Use of these compromised systems expose every election to unacceptable risk and erodes the foundation of our republic. This board has both the legal authority and the moral duty to act decisively. We urge you to lead with courage and restore our trust in the electoral process. I appreciate your time and we look forward to your immediate action. And I stand for to support the transition and the integrity of our elections. Cannot wait.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate that. So
Thank you.
who is we that you were referring to? Did I miss that in your initial?
Well, there's a lot of different sources out there, but if you look at all this information on Midwest Swamp Watch, a lot of the attachments, I mean, there's people with forensic degrees that have looked into this stuff. It's not anything, I'm saying as far as we, the citizens of Wyoming, we're ready to do hand counts and help make it transparent. But as far as where all this information comes from, it's off of our systems that we've, off of the systems from our state and our counties that we've looked up.
Okay.
And I do have a copy of the contract. It's an older contract. I believe Cindy probably has the newer one now, but it's between the state of Wyoming, the Secretary of State, and ES&S. And I also have the invoice that we paid June 9th of 2026 for maintenance of the machines for $39,969.50. So if you guys want to see any of that, so.
Questions or comments, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Jones.
just one comment, because I've kind of looked into this and shouldn't say kind of, I have looked into this, don't claim to be an expert, but attended several meetings and whatnot. And I think one of the things that concerns me with hand counting is the potential of human error. And the reason I say that is some of the meetings that I've attended, essentially backing up what you're saying, the presenters all kind of have the same story, and that is the clerks did this wrong, this person did that wrong, another person did this wrong. And to go so far as to say what they've done is illegal and felonious and variety of different things like that. But so it goes back to my concern that if all of these people are making all of these mistakes or errors or whatever you want to call them, I'm not sure that that gives me a lot of confidence in people counting the votes, because they can certainly make mistakes. We're all human. So it's certainly possible to make human error is a thing. And there is also the possibility of people that are doing the counting might support one candidate over another and might do something a little underhanded. Granted, there's more than one person doing the counting. I get that, but causes discrepancies. And I guess the last example I might use is, I think 2 years ago, I believe, the state GOP had a meeting and tried to hand count some things, and I wasn't there, so I didn't experience it firsthand, but had some difficulties getting the counts right. So I guess I'd like to be comfortable that the human error is eliminated.
Okay, well, I want to push back a little bit. I was at that meeting with the state GOP, and I did not see that happen. We actually had a very good count. I don't know if it was one that was like that evening, but the one that we did as a group in Douglas went very well. Also, when they do the counts, they have 2 callers and 2 talliers, as they go. And they were able to do 250 votes in an hour on these different methods. I challenge the county commissioners. We're not here to point fingers at our county clerks, although our elections do rest in 23 people in the entire state. We're here to help. And we challenge the commissioners to work with the people to watch a gold standard hold one. The whole thing is, we don't know what's going to happen federally with everything coming down. We should be prepared as a county so that if this happens, that we are ready. And I think you'll be surprised. I know you did attend one of the meetings. You weren't there for the count. I've been involved in many hand counts, and they have been extremely accurate, and they really do give people confidence in our elections.
Additional comments, commissioners?
Pretty scary, if you ask me, to open it up to a lot of different people who aren't experts, being exposed to all those ballots. I would much rather have a definitive count.
Yeah. Again, what I mentioned, though, they're not just in the hands of our county and our people. We're relying on, machines with secret software, not all here. That seems a lot more scary to me. I have confidence, all the confidence in the world in people. And when you get 4 people at one table doing one election, and like I said, the 2 callers and the 2 talliers, It is a very good method. I think we owe it to the citizens to at least show them. If you don't think it will work, I think I would like to say that we need to do it. We need to show, because I've been part of them. They're wonderful. They work great. Once everybody gets on board, it is so easy.
Is there anywhere else in the state doing this?
Oh, yeah. A lot of different counties have done it, and not only different counties, but different states are doing it. Texas, South Dakota, they've been doing the hand counts, and they're checking like how long it's taking and how much money it costs, because it'll cost, even if you paid the people $30 an hour to do hand counts after, it would cost far less. I mean, our maintenance agreement's $40,000 a year, and then we're paying for machines and all the other stuff. So, I mean, it would save the taxpayers a lot of money and you guys, and give you money for something else in your budget. I mean, we hand counted forever, so it's not that much different. And we have a non-presidential election coming up, which will mean we will have less turnout, unfortunately, but what a great time to try. So.
And have you met with Clerk Swenson on any of these?
I have met with her on the beginning of the 2024 election just to talk about the things, but I have not met with her specifically on these items. Yeah.
Additional comments? Commissioner Slaughter?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to express, I believe we're all of the belief we want to have the best election integrity that we can. I don't think I think I can say that without unequivocally. We've got to work with our chief elections officer, the clerk, obviously. How much longer would it take to do a hand count ballot here in Sweetwater County, would you estimate?
Well, so the thing is, you would get the results that night, because again, we talked about, so for every 250 voters, 4 people can run those races in like an hour. So if you had we would want to have between 50 and 100, people to count, and it would be tables of 4. So obviously you would make it even to that number. And what we like to have is a Republican and Democrat to be the callers, and a Republican and Democrat to be, or independent, but different people. So the 4 at the table, we like to have that. That's the only fast way to count that's really certifiable. And you start with 1 pen and you mark them as you go. And then if you're off in anything and counts, then you stop and you fix it. But we just didn't have that. I mean, it worked really well, and the election results would be done that night, and it would bring the community together. We would have a time to, to connect with each other. I think that's a really important thing, because it seems like there's a lot of division, and I think that would bring a lot of people together, because we all have the same end goal. We want to have fair, free elections. So.
Thank you for bringing us your information.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Clerk Swenson, anything you'd like to add? Thanks for coming over, presenting the
Thank you.
information. Appreciate it, Laura. That's going to move us to our final item under the action presentation items before you this morning, Commissioners, which is item number 8. We have our quarterly ambulance update, and joining us this morning is CEO Bailey Doctor, as well as some board and staff, I believe. Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry. Yes, we have several of our board members here with me today, Patsy Sorensen and Reed Robbins. And then our Chief Financial Officer, Todd Toulson, is here, and Jenny Magagna is our HR Director, and I'll introduce her a little bit more here in just a minute. I'm here to give you our quarterly update, and also because it's the end of the fiscal year, kind of closing out the year, to give you some of our numbers. And as you know, Castle Rock's been operating the ambulance service in both Rock Springs and Green River now for a number of years, going on 4 years, actually. So we feel like for 2025 and 6, our biggest win to close out the year was really bringing our expenses in line. At the last quarterly meeting, I had expressed to you that we were concerned about overtime and the difference between our expenses and revenue, and kind of seeing those shift in the wrong direction. So this year this last quarter, we were really able to bring our expenses back in line. Our revenues have been down this year kind of across the board, both in 911 services as well as our long distance transports and our airport transports as well. So A lot of that, like I've mentioned in the past, is out of our control. We can't really predict how many people are going to use the 911 services. This year, we billed about 7 calls. Last year we billed about 7 calls a day for 911s. This year it's down to 6 1/4. So not a huge discrepancy, but over time that does add up. We have a lot of unbillable calls where we show up and the patient refuses or someone else is called on their behalf, so it gets canceled midway. Last quarter, we did respond to 1,287 calls across the county that were 911. This year, our transfer revenue, like I mentioned, is a little bit down as well. So that's when we take a patient from the Rock Springs Hospital at Memorial, either to Salt Lake City or to, say, Casper. Sometimes we go as far as Colorado. This year, we've taken an average of 15 patients per month, and last year we took about 17 per month. So we want to see that trend in a different direction. We do try to take every patient that we can. This last quarter, we did recognize that, like I said, and adjust it. We pared back how many staff we have working from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. We still have 2 ambulances, one in Rock Springs and one in Green River during that time, and the rest of the time we have 3. 2 in Rock Springs and 1 in Green River. So this year we ended, though, with more staff than we did last year. We're continuing to decrease our overtime. We have 34 staff currently, including 17 full-time, 4 part-time, and 13 PRN. This is something that you also kind of have seen adjust over the years. Volunteerism is down, so our PRN staff, we like to rely on them as much as we can, but a lot of people can't give a lot of time. So having our full-time and part-time regular staff is really critical at this point. We have, of the 34, 14 of those are advanced providers, which means they have either a paramedic or an intermediate level. We do staff each ambulance with either a paramedic or an intermediate, along with a basic or an advanced EMT. 8 of our advanced providers are paramedics and 6 are intermediates. This quarter, we did have a change in our leadership, and I'd like to introduce Jenny, this lady sitting right here in the green shirt. She's our interim ambulance director. She's also the HR director for the district, and she's worked for us for several years. And the beginning of May, we made that change, and Jenny took on some of the supervisory responsibilities. We also have an office manager that's full-time, and we have 4 shift coordinators that are helping Jenny with the day-to-day, but she's doing a great job. We really appreciate her support. She's really stepped up and is helping us monitor a lot of our day-to-day operations and bringing expenses into line as well. So we do feel like that's definitely moving in the right direction. As far as events that we have coming up, I thought this meeting might be worth mentioning, since it's definitely our busy season for events, that we did stand by for the Overland Stage Stampede, and we have also stood by for the 4th of July fireworks show in Green River. We have several weekends that the staff are covering Sweetwater Speedway, also several weekends that motocross is keeping us very busy. And then in August and September, there's 6 weeks of the Sweetwater Downs horse racing, where we cover practice as well as the races. So very, very busy with events, and we enjoy doing those, but we always try to make sure that our 911 is fully staffed before we commit to doing an event. We have not seen it affect our coverage in the community as far as availability with our 3 full-time ambulances and doing those events. So I say that now, but August and September are definitely our busy season. So our staff are really good about stepping up, but we do incur overtime more during those times. As you know, we are also constructing a new ambulance barn on Gateway. It's continuing to run on schedule and on budget. We plan to move in this winter. We're hoping for November. It's going to be an 8,000 square foot facility, and we are going to use it to teach CPR and EMT classes in the community. Right now, the CPR and EMT classes that we teach are happening in Green River, so it'll be nice to have a Rock Springs location for that. We're also going to be applying for funding through the Rural Health Transformation Fund to help with those classes. Right now, your subsidy helps cover the wages for EMTs to teach those classes, so we're working closely with the Department of Health. The application period for that opened the 1st, and it closes August 1st. So we'll get that application turned in. We're hoping to be able to funnel some of that money into Sweetwater County. We did find out last week that there's a couple barriers with the way the application was written, that we're not going to get as much money as we had hoped, but we're hoping that maybe next year we can. So we'll keep you posted on how that application goes. But yeah, EMS is definitely something that, the purpose of the Rural Health Transformation Fund, from what they heard from constituents as well as from leaders around the state, is that EMS is one of those things that really needs support. So we're hoping that the application can be written a little differently to the federal government next year, and more of that can come to Sweetwater County. Another one of our big purchases that we're in the middle of right now is purchasing a new ambulance. So our ambulances, as they age and, more and more miles come on them, we are needing to replace them. So we are in the middle of purchasing one of those. And just to close, I think overall the year went well. We did ask for a subsidy of 1.7 million going into this year, which is $100,000 less than our contract max. And we're hoping to be able to continue to decrease the subsidy by attracting more staff. The more staff we have, the less overtime we have to pay. But the longer we operate the service, we feel like the more staff feel like the service is stable, and we're able to attract really solid paramedics and EMTs into the service. So a couple of you have asked me about whether or not kind of a regionalized service works well. And, of course, in my personal opinion, but we've also seen that in the numbers between Rock Springs and Green River having a regionalized service. And now that we've operated it for 4 years, we can see it working. The staff have gotten used to working in both Rock Springs and Green River, which is different than what they used to do. We were kind of working in silos before. They go on standby for each other. They know we have our system that automatically puts one of the ambulances on standby if someone gets called out. That works really well. Where before we kind of operated blindly. So anyway, those things, we feel like the longer we do it, the better we get at it. And we just appreciate your support to be able to offer more of a regionalized system here. So does anybody have any questions for me? I think that was all I had.
Thanks, Bailey and team. Appreciate it. And we met last week too. I failed to comment on that in my commissioner comments, but appreciate you coming over. And obviously it's a year left on the contract, which seems hard to believe. But some of the different conversations that are taking place there. And I told you I was meeting with both mayors the following day, and that didn't take place. So we'll follow up with you in that regard. But I know there's been kind of some questions as to Rock Springs' side and the fire department and them having ambulances. And so I think it's about time for us to start having those conversations as to what the future looks like, so we can be prepared and not, a last minute rush, whatever that may be, whether it's continuation or, difference in how the funding comes about or what have you. So, but during that meeting, you talked about the Rural Health Transformation Fund, and I believe you had stated that it had to be an affiliation or refresh my memory, something to do with an acute care hospital or ownership or something. And well, that's why it wouldn't necessarily apply to your ambulance service.
Yes, thank you. So the way that the Department of Health wrote the application and the way that it got approved, because it had to go through a whole approval process with the federal government, the purpose of the transformation fund is really to regionalize services, to try to make them more sustainable across rural communities. And because we've already regionalized, we're a little ahead of the curve in that way. And some of the application was written kind of based off of the bigger communities like Cheyenne, where they have a fire department there, that one fire department, and the hospital that functions there. So the way the application was written, in order for EMS services to get access to the funding for things like shoot time and response time, we have to be owned by a critical access hospital. And that's, Memorial Hospital is a critical access, but because Sweetwater County isn't set up that way, a lot of that funding is going to be left on the table this year. When we called attention to it from the Department of Health's perspective, they admitted, that was maybe a mistake, and that they wanted to talk about doing something differently next year, because this funding is for 5 years. So we're hoping to be able, as they work things out and they see these applications come in and they kind of see different communities are set up differently, that can change things for our state as well. So it was, a critical access hospital. There's fire department allowance in there, is where we're as well, where municipal fire departments can operate an ambulance service or require an ambulance service, and get some of that funding that way. When we talked to them, kind of called attention to the fact that we have two here in Sweetwater County. So how, like communities like ours are going to be limited in that because you can't really, like the tax situation is different between those two communities and their fire departments. So again, I think they're willing to work with us and hear us out and continue to have these calls. I mean, Jenny and I met with the deputy director for the Department of Health. We have access to people that can affect change at the state level, which is nice, but it's going to take a little bit of time. I think the application requirements for how quickly they had to write the application and get it approved affected some of the information that they were able to share with the federal government. So yeah, well, I think this first year might be more of a test run and then they can work it out later. So.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Slaughter.
Mr. Chairman, just going back to the meeting that you alluded to from last week, I think one of the things that seemed to be readily apparent was that there is a lack of communication between some of the entities, and we had strived to try and come up with some mechanism to put everybody in the same room to do that. I think that's imperative that we do that, and I think we will continue doing that. You did send us additional information the next day. I appreciate that too.
Sure.
That's exactly what we're looking for, is the data, so that we can actually compare some of the things, because we're hearing different stories from different people. We want to see the data. You're providing that, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tony.
I have a question. Are you charging these entities? Because Red Desert Roundup says you would not provide ambulances. They had to get volunteers from Gold Cross out of Utah because you were going to charge them. So are you charging all of these entities additional funds for ambulance service?
To address that, we weren't asked to provide ambulance for the Red Desert Roundup Rodeo specifically. That wasn't something that we were approached to do this year or last year. I think the fire department in Rock Springs typically does that. So it wasn't honestly even really on my radar because I just kind of had assumed that they were going with the fire department. But we do charge some of the services. Yes, absolutely, because that helps decrease the subsidy to the county. We talked a little bit about if we charge like the events complex, like that might be something that we can talk about in maybe the next contract, is to do more free standby, because it seems like we're trading county money for county money since you're subsidizing us. But at this point, we do charge for some of our events, and we do other events for free, like the football games or, the some of the touch a truck things that we're doing around the community. But like, for instance, the horse races, we are, Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're out there for like 6 hours a day, almost every day. It's not every day of the week, but it's close. So we have to charge to be able to cover those costs, and they're aware of that. I asked them if, they had a standby, someone else in case we can't cover it. And they were like, no, just charge us. We need to be able to do this in order to offer the event. We have to have the ambulance standby. So yeah, we do, to answer your question, we do charge for some of those events for sure.
And how is that shown on your sheet that you gave?
It is under the revenue event standby. It's the third item down on the income statement that we provide. So last year, the budget was 65,000 and we brought in 70,000 for event standby. It's not, again, where our revenue is, our 911 revenue, we're budgeted at 5.3 million. It's a very small thing, but as far as having free events and just offering an ambulance anytime anyone needs it would be really cost prohibitive, because, it's a nice thing to do for the community, but it can also, burn staff out after long periods of time. And we want to make sure that we're being responsible with your funds. So, but again, if you want to give us feedback about that, we're open to kind of talking about different ways to do that if it's at the events complex or, those kinds of things too. So does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Thanks.
Additional comments? Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bailey, if we could get all of the information ahead of time so we have it in the packet, not only for us, but for the public to see, so that they can see calls and, all that's in our packet is 1 month financial, which doesn't, folks sitting in this room don't really, or online or wherever, don't really get much of a picture. Because I guess one of the questions I have then is if calls are down and overtime is down and all of those things are down, but then we went up on your request for funding from the county, doesn't seem to balance out. If you can help me understand that.
Sure. Yeah, we started to see, I think I mentioned in our last quarterly update that we started to see a downturn in 911s really all year. And it is reflected probably best in the financials, but we can certainly start offering like our billed calls, like the numbers to you as well and show it in graph form. But we started to see that early on in this fiscal year, but we kept the same staffing levels because it varies so much. You really can't predict 911. So we didn't make really any big changes for about 8 months because we wanted to see how the winter went. We wanted to really experience that before we kind of cut an ambulance out at night and then ended up in a situation where we couldn't respond to a patient. So we are conservative when it comes to cutting back hours. So that affected how much of a subsidy we needed because our expenses remained the same while our revenues had decreased for a number of months. So we did make that adjustment the beginning of March and really have started to see those expenses flatten out and even decrease. So when I say we're hopeful that we can bring the subsidy down next year, if we can experience that all year long or kind of, see that trend out, that's why I think we could bring it down below the 1.7.
Mr. Slaughter?
Mr. Chairman, just one more follow-up, Bailey. Another thing that came out of that meeting the other day, I had asked you if you could provide the information on response times.
Yes.
I knew you were going to be here today. Did you have a chance to look at that? Or
Yes. We looked at it and the system that we use at the state level, the reporting is pretty convoluted. We pulled it the beginning of or the end of last week and looked at it yesterday. So we are, yes, I will get it to you here in the next couple of days, but I didn't want to report it just because some of it doesn't really make sense to us. But yeah, I think it's a great thing to report to you all as far as like our average response times and how quickly we're out the door. And it's something that, we keep a close eye on as well. So the reporting system itself, it's called Waters. And there's just a lot of data that just came at us and it can be misunderstood or misinterpreted pretty
I
easily.
think that's
So
something that's very important. So if
Yeah.
we need to sit down with you so that you can explain it to us, so we have a better handle on it, I think that's something that we should look at. So thank you.
Additional comments, questions? Well, we appreciate the update and we'll look forward to, I guess, the future, and congratulations to Jenny. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're constantly changing, just keeping up with the different times. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that adapting to the services and what's out there. And I know there's been some noise here and there. And again, as Commissioner Slaughter spoke to, I'd rather see the data than respond to the noise. So we will be having some future meetings set up and we'll definitely include you in those, but appreciate you coming over and updating us and keeping us up to speed. And we certainly pay our respects to Bob Gordon as well. So
thank you. Thanks so much.
thank you guys very much for coming over. Appreciate it.
Bye.
See you later. It's going to conclude the regular business, commissioners. We do have 2 items under executive session, one being for potential litigation, the other for personnel. It is not anticipated that action will be taken upon coming out, but we won't know until we conclude. We will take this up across the hallway in the Castle Rock room. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous, and we're now in executive. Entertain a motion to come out of executive session and reconvene the meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Toman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. We are out of executive session and there is no action to be taken. So with no further action to come before the board, this meeting stands adjourned and we'll see you back here on the 21st.